Well, the latest SEC quarterback rankings just came out, but something doesn't add up. Mississippi State has two quarterbacks featured. Could this be an early sign of a quarterback controversy or just a hot take? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Well, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Go to FanDuel.com. My name is Jaron Spor. I'm a national college football writer for Athlon Sports. That's Landon McBride. We got a great show for you today. We got another set of quarterback rankings, and you might be thinking, why are we going to talk about that again? We kind of figure out where Blake Shapen is, because this one had a little twist to it, as two Mississippi State quarterbacks were listed on it and not just one. We also got maybe a possible new portal addition for football. We'll kind of talk about what they're looking for if they ended up deciding to kind of fill that, basically one spot left. And the basketball portal, men's basketball team has one spot left, and there seems to be two guys that are kind of up for that position. So we'll break that down. That will be later on in the show. But let's start with the quarterback rankings, and this comes from the Next Round. It's on Twitter. This is the Lance Taylor is his @ It's Lance Taylor, obviously, and his quarterback rankings for the SEC, and he ranked all 16 starters, but there was a twist. At number 15 was Mississippi State, and not only was Blake Shapen listed, Luke Kromenhoek was listed as well. Is that something or is that nothing?
I think it's more of a nod to the fact that Shapen gets hurt all the time more than a hot take. I think it's more of Kromenhoek's probably going to play a decent amount given Shapen's injury history, so go ahead and put him on there. Also, good to see someone else has the same opinion as Zach Calzada as I do.
Yeah.
Good to see it not be last in some ranking. But, yeah, I don't think it's really much of a hot take. I mean, it could be. That could be the way he meant it. But to me, it's more we haven't seen Shapen make it through a season in a long time. So maybe you just go ahead and you're hedging your bet, putting Kromenhoek on there as well.
Yeah, I mean, the most games Blake Shapen has played in his career, I think he had one season where he played 12 games. Obviously, only made it 4 games this past season. But the interesting part about it is, and I kind of agree with you, I think it's more of like they think he's going to get hurt kind of thing. Real quick, Blake Shapen, he played 13 games 1 year with Baylor. Other than that, he played 6 games, 8 games, and 4 games. So I think it's probably a nod that they think he'll get injured, knock on wood. But the interesting thing I saw with this was obviously Zach Calzada is number 16, like you mentioned. That's the only other team that has 2 quarterbacks listed. Cutter Boley is listed with Kentucky. But we know Tennessee's has a quarterback battle at least. We know Alabama's got a quarterback battle. Like, we know some of these teams ahead of them have quarterback battles, but only one quarterback's listed. And also, we talked about the spring game. It wasn't Luke Kromenhoek that was taking the second team reps. Now, I want to preface that. I don't know what happens in practice. He could have been battling injury. It could have been, hey, we want Camario Taylor to get more reps, so we're not going to play you with the backup. You don't know what all goes into it. But just going off face value, he was not the second quarterback in.
No, he wasn't. And it could be, you're preserving Taylor's red shirt. Maybe that's some of what it is too. And since Kromenhoek does have more eligibility left, if the season spirals, you start getting him reps to see if he's a guy you want to keep around, or if you do want to go ahead and turn it over to Camario Taylor, which that wouldn't be the worst idea either. Like, if the season gets out of hand, you go ahead and just bitch shape and put Kromenhoek out there and see if he's a guy you feel you can build something with, or if it's that season ends, you go, all right, you're gone too. But I don't think it's, and again, my first thought, I also, when I first looked at it, I was like, oh, he has Kromenhoek above Shapen. And I was like, oh, it's alphabetical order. He's not making some bold prediction with that. But I don't know. It's such a weird situation. I feel like Shapen's firmly there, so it has to be a injury-related take.
Yeah, you feel like it has to, because Kromenhoek obviously is the transfer from Florida State. He played 6 games last year, completed 52% of his passes, 502 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. The interesting thing was he had 63 carries for 113 yards, no touchdown. That's 1.8 yards per carry. That means he ran it 10 times. Now, it's college, so if you get sacked, that counts as a rushing attempt. And we know Florida State's offensive line was really bad. And my guess, without really diving into it, was he was sacked quite a bit, and that's kind of led to the 10. But yeah, I just think it's interesting because we feel like there's no quarterback controversy. Shapen is the guy. And we've spent a lot of this offseason talking like if Shapen were to get injured or something were to happen to him, you have to just go with Kamaro Taylor and go with the young gun and just see what he can do. And so I just thought it was so interesting that we're listing Luke Kromenhoek on the list, and it's not Kamaro Taylor. And again, I know Kromenhoek has the experience, and so that's why you want to list him. But again, we can go into details about if they're too low, too high, because we both talked about we think Shapen probably should be a little higher. He's a little more proven, some of the guys above him, but we understand it because of an injury history. But it just makes you think, like, is there something we're missing, or is it as simple as this injury history is just too hard to overlook?
And I think that's what it is. And the reason he probably went Kromenhoek over Taylor is he's, I don't know him personally, but he's probably not living Mississippi State quarterback day in and day out. So he's probably looking at, Kromenhoek started as a true freshman at Florida State last year. He's the clear number 2.
Right.
And not going into, Taylor had a great spring game. He's done this. That would be my guess on why he's probably listed.
Well, and he could have looked at the spring game numbers, and you just can't tell. Like maybe Taylor was with the third string and was just lighting it up. Like you don't know who came in second and stuff unless you like live Mississippi State. So that's a good point as well. Because he, like you said, he might not know that Taylor was the one who actually came in second. Mm-hmm. My guess still is if something were to happen to Shapen, Taylor is the one that's going in. Now, knock on wood over here, like hopefully it doesn't happen because we really need him to play this whole season if we want to get the most out of Mississippi State. Because I think we both agree, while Taylor showed he was probably farther along than we thought he was, he's still not ready to be the starter. And so he needs a year of sitting. And, the only way I see them going with Kromenhoek if something were to happen to Shapen is if we're late in the season and it's like, we don't want to throw this kid out there. The season's over. If we throw him out, like maybe there's 5 games left, so we don't want to burn his red shirt, but the season's also over where we're so far below, we're not going to make a bowl game. Let's just go with Kromenhoek so we don't burn his red shirt. So I can see something like that happening. Otherwise, I think Taylor is the guy that would go in.
I also could see that situation. You don't see it very often, but you've seen a handful of times where the guy who's listed as the backup is not the guy who starts long-term if something happens to the starter. And that could kind of be the situation. Like if Shapen goes down, maybe Kromenhoek finishes that game, but the following week, Taylor's now the starter, which you do see that sometimes where you have a guy who you feel kind of like comfortable as like the caretaker type of quarterback that can come in and kind of pitch relief for the rest of that game, but you're not going to start him. Maybe you do if it's just one game, but you're not starting him long-term. So maybe that's another thing. Maybe we do see Kromenhoek listed second on the depth chart, but if it's a long-term thing, I wouldn't be surprised if Taylor's the guy taking the snaps.
Yeah, and was there anything else on the list that kind of surprised you? He has Lenore Sellers, number 1 from South Carolina, John Mateer from Oklahoma, then Garrett Nussmeier, Arch Manning, DJ Lagway, Jackson Arnold, Austin Simmons, Ty Simpson. Diego Pavia is kind of lower than most would probably think. Caitlin Green, Marcel Reed, Gunnar Stockton, Joey Aguilar, Bo Prabula, and then obviously there's the Shapen, Kromenhoek, and the Boli Calzada. But anything stick out to you about that list?
I mean, not from my opinions, but I'm glad to see someone isn't drinking all the Arch Manning Kool-Aid.
I was about to say that. And I think Arch is going to be really good. But until we see him play like a full season, can we wait?
And I do think Lenore Sellers is probably the most exciting quarterback, but I would not put him number 1. I would probably put Nussmeier number 1.
I would put Nussmeier 1.
So, I mean, I get why you have Lenore Sellers high. I mean, he's great, so fun to watch, but Nussmeier's a better quarterback. Mateer, I would probably put 2. So, I mean, Mateer's right. I would just flip 1 and 3. So.
Yeah. And the 2 things about Arch Manning and DJ Lagway. Just want to preface this before Florida and Texas fans get all mad. I think both are going to be really good, and I think they're extremely talented.
We make people mad all the time.
Right. But Lagway, for example, he showed a lot of promise, but his stats aren't overall blowing away. And so I'm glad that they're realistic with his ranking, because I've seen some people put him at number 1. Okay, let's hold off on that. Like his potential is that, but he hasn't shown that. And then Arch Manning, in very limited play, he played well in some games. He didn't play well in some other games. He was not good in the Georgia game when he came in relief. So let's just hold off on the Arch Manning hype and go from there. But nothing else really sticks out to me. So I think overall it's a pretty good list. But like you said, I think Nussmeier deserves to be number 1 with how well he's played.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then I was just looking at it again. You get that Taylor Green, Marcel Reed back to back. It's like, they're like the same type quarterback, honestly. Like, how do you pick which one's ahead of the other one?
Yeah, for sure. All right. So is there another portal edition coming for football? We'll talk about that. That's coming up next. All right, well, the NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shift, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. So what would it look like to combine a live prop bet mid-game based on how the action unfolds? Maybe you see a team turning it over a lot, so you want to put the turnover bet on there, but you also see a team shooting the 3 well, so you want to kind of parlay that together. Something like that. What if you've got a read on who's heating up? Why not back it up with a same-game parlay? There's the Cavaliers and the Pacers played last night. Maybe Halliburton, he was hot from 3, so you want to put a same-game parlay bet on that. So those are just a lot of things you can do with FanDuel. Now, what is new to FanDuel? Well, it's the perfect time to sign up, because head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet, because if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, so it's been kind of quiet the last few days in the transfer portal, which we talked about how the transfer portal never sleeps, and it really doesn't, but it has been kind of quiet.
It's been
yeah. But there has been some updates. Maroon and White Daily put out their biscuits, and this was from Monday's biscuits, and one of them was former Robert Morris transfer defensive end Turner Schmidt. He reported a Mississippi State offer. Bulldogs never opted to bring him in for a visit. He ended up committing to James Madison. That was over the weekend. But they kind of talk about cornerback is kind of who they're looking for. They have basically one position left or one spot left. And so they're kind of looking at cornerback, but there's just not much in there at this point. And so what are you thinking? Do you think they add anyone? Maybe we only are going to add a corner if we add one? Is it if there's a player that we think will fit somewhere else, even if we're deep at that position, we'll add that? Or do you think this is just kind of it? This is the team we're going with?
I think it's pretty much it. If they do add someone, it'll probably be in the secondary, because you look at how deep the defensive line is, how many people they brought in over the the first portal break, and then added a couple more the next time. So they're very deep there. They've overhauled the offensive line, and those were 2 of the biggest weaknesses. So there's not really a spot there. Receiver, they hit hard the first time around the portal. Running back wasn't a need, but they brought in someone who's very good there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, solid at linebacker. So I really think, corner's really the only place. Now, if there's someone who's like a safety who can kind of play that nickel, you probably look at him too. But I would say if it's not a corner, it's probably nothing.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Obviously, if some late second game changer drops in there, a defensive lineman or something, maybe you go in for that. Or, we talked about tight end, but they've added some tight end. So I think you're probably right. They're probably done at this point. You maybe get a corner, but I am big on, and I see teams do this all the time. I am big on, you don't just add a player to add a player. Like, look, we just need another body. Let's add him. We have an extra spot. Let's add him. Because I think, for one, you're kind of doing a disservice to that kid. Now, you can make the argument, well, he's got a roster spot now, and he's not guaranteed that before he picks you. But I think you're doing a disservice to him, because he probably never has a real chance of actually playing for you. And maybe he was going to go to a team that he was going to play for, and then he saw your offer, and he's like, oh, I can go to Mississippi State, and really he's just a body there.
Yeah.
So I think it's a disservice. So I don't like when teams do that, and you see it a lot. Now, with that being said, sometimes you got to fill your roster. So if you have a lot of openings and you have to get bodies, like, so be it. Hopefully you don't have to do that because you have so much quality depth. They're not just bodies at that point. But right now you have one spot open. If it's someone that you think can impact, and maybe it's like, I don't know if he's going to impact this year. Maybe he's, got a lot of potential, or maybe it's like, he was pretty good. We can see what he could do. I saw some like lower level D1s. I even saw an FCS guy that was really good enter the portal a couple of days ago. I can't remember his name, but someone like that, like, okay, maybe we take a flyer on him. Like that kind of stuff I would get, but I think they're probably done at this point. Like you said, cornerback is one that I think they would take a stab on. But on the flip side, I've read about several teams wanting cornerbacks coming into the winter cycle, and none of them have really gone after any because there's just not many out there.
Quality corners don't go too many places because they're so hard to get good corners that you don't see them leave very often. Teams do what they can to keep them, and if they do enter, it's because they know where they're going when they enter.
Well, and teams usually play 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So it's not one of those things like you used to where if you're not one of the it's not like where you used to, if you weren't in the top 2, you weren't playing.
Yeah.
Like that, and that's another reason why guys don't leave, because they're playing as the backup to one of the corner spots, or like you mentioned, some of them are getting moved to nickel and they're playing there, or some you even like kind of like a hybrid safety type thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, you don't see a lot leave that are really talented, and when they do leave, everyone is pouncing on them, and so the biggest pockets a lot of times, or the biggest teams, are the ones that just land those guys.
Yeah, and there doesn't seem to be much really left in the portal that gets you excited at any position. Now, there could be one of those guys coming from a lower level school that maybe they changed positions, they came up as a tight end, put on a lot of weight, and is now moving to tackle, and something about that interests you, and you're like, hey, come in, you'll redshirt, and maybe in 2 years you play. But I think even if they add someone, I think we're done with anyone who's going to impact this year's team unless something crazy happens and everyone missed on the evaluation. He's just an amazing player that slipped through the cracks.
Yeah, and I will say this past weekend there was no official visitors, and that kind of has so far kind of seemed like the trend. I haven't read unless I missed it, I haven't read anything about a transfer taking a visit this week.
Yeah.
And so that also kind of makes you think, okay, they're probably winding down at this point, which again, you should expect overall that it's kind of winding down at this point, because right now it's finals and kids are doing all that kind of stuff right now. Then they get I think they get like a week or 2, and then they're right into summer football, and by that point you want your roster established because kids have to get enrolled and stuff like that. So I just wouldn't expect much going forward.
Yeah, with the spring being over, I think that time's kind of passed, unless something like we said, unless something crazy happens, because I think after the spring game, you really want to know at least kind of who your top 2 is at every position.
Right.
And then over the summer and fall, you battle out who is your number 1 at every spot, so you're ready going in. Unless there's just a game changer, you don't want to really upend all the work you've done to this point.
Yeah, for sure. All right, coming up next is the basketball team potentially about to land a player. There's 2 that are kind of fighting for that last spot, possibly. We'll talk about both of those. That's coming up next. All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Landon, so we also have basketball team. Yeah. Ironically, like the football team, they're both kind of in that looking for that last guy to kind of, take that last spot. And basketball, it's a little more important to get that last spot filled than it is in football. But kind of the one I've been reading about this guy. It's kind of been in a wait and see mode. And the weird thing is, in the transfer portal era, you don't really see this. Yeah, it usually doesn't take this long. But that's North Carolina transfer Ven-Allen Lubin, and he's a guy that's played for 3 schools in 3 years. So this will be his 4th school in 4 years. But he played for Vanderbilt his sophomore year, started all 26 games. He started 20 games for North Carolina last year. Notre Dame, he was where he started. He started 7 games as a true freshman. For his career, he's averaging 9 points a game and 5 rebounds. He's 6'8", 226. He's a guy that his sophomore year was his best year, and we kind of talked about this with the women's team, where guys will have these really good years with a team and then transfer to a bigger school thinking that all this stuff and everything kind of drops. I mean, he was averaging 28 minutes per game, averaged 12 points, averaged 6 rebounds, averaged a block, shot 50% from the field. And then his numbers dropped to 19 minutes per game, even though he started several games for North Carolina. He shot 68%, which was good, but he averaged 8 points, 5 rebounds. So it's just, I guess, a guy looking to kind of get back to that Vanderbilt way. And it sounds like, let's see, I think it's down between them and Auburn. NC State's another one that's kind of been mentioned.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he definitely fits the size that we've been talking about, how they need some more size. You know, it's 6'8", 225, 230-ish, somewhere in there. I mean, that's a guy that you can play at your 4. And he shoots pretty good. I mean, I don't know. I mean, his 3-point, he doesn't really maybe 1 a game is kind of what you're looking at for the career. So, I mean, he's not a shooter, but he's not someone that you're scared to leave open. So, I mean, you're still going to kind of have him clogging the paint a little bit with your center that'll be playing next to him. But he really fits kind of what you want, you know, bigger, longer guy that you can play at the 4. Maybe in certain situations you could even play him at the 3 if you're going with depending on your lineup structure, just to get that size out there. We'll say he's far more exciting to me than the other guy who might be in that list. Devan Cambridge, almost called him Devin Campbell, from Texas Tech. I mean, I don't know what it is with people who went to Texas Tech getting 7 years of eligibility. But,
7 years. Alan Lubin that's the one you want.
Yes.
Because he brings quality starting depth. Devan Cambridge is just he's not a bad player. I don't want to act like he's this bad player, because he's actually a really solid player when he plays. He's played in 14 games. He's played in 14 games the last 2 years. And like we mentioned, this was his 7th year. So he's had a lot of injury-riddled seasons. His first 3 seasons, or really his first 4 seasons, were really good in terms of he played 31 games, 27 games, 33 games, 36 games. Started his career at Auburn, played 3 years there, played a season at Arizona State. And then he got his COVID year, which was the year he took at Tech, in 2023, played 8 games. Then he got a medical redshirt year, 6 games, got another medical redshirt year, and that's why he's get the 7th year. He's visiting Pittsburgh later on today. Then he's visiting Ohio State next Monday. But he's also said he's considering a trip to Mississippi State. But, you know, for his career, he's averaging 7.2 points, nearly 4 rebounds. He's 44% from the field, 29% from 3. He's 6'6", 215. So kind of similar. He shoots the 3 a little more than Alan Lubin, but similar role in what they will play.
Yeah, I think very similar role, but Alan Lubin gives you some actual upside to what you're getting.
Right. And hasn't had an injury history. You're
kind of getting what you're getting. And I mean, it's crazy that he's getting a 7th year. Like, people who he came into college with are getting their 2nd NBA contracts. And he's looking for his 4th school. Yeah. 4th school too, can go for his 7th year. I mean, he wouldn't be a bad depth piece, but it's not an exciting one. It's kind of we have another spot open.
Right. And it's one of those that it's, again, when he's played, he's been solid. So it's one of those that if he will play, he's probably a solid addition. Now, granted, we don't know how he's going to recover from the 2 season-ending injuries he's had. But assuming he kind of gets somewhat back into where he was, it's like, okay, he's at least a solid rotation player if he can play a whole season. But that's the question.
That's a big question too. So, I mean, we're in the wait and see mode. See which one of these guys actually comes in. You know, we've made it clear which one we want, but it's not like Cambridge would be bad. It's just he's not exciting.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. We're just talking about a lot of transfer portal stuff, so check out this show if you want to know when these guys commit or if they're planning visits or anything like that. Because Brian Smith, he has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Jaron. Like I said, write for Athlon Sports, so check out my work over there. That's Landon. Follow us, Locked On Mississippi State. We're on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We post daily videos Monday through Friday. We also post a comment under every YouTube video, so we love your feedback on that. We love interacting with you. And then we post a poll. It's a separate question from the one that we post on the YouTube channel. So check that out. That's also on YouTube. Check that out and comment on that. We love that feedback. Something you want us to discuss, definitely let us know that. Oh, I did want to mention, I did look up. So we talked about yesterday, D1 baseball. New rankings would probably come out like right when we released the podcast on Tuesday. It did release a little later than right after we released. Still a 3 seed, still in the Tallahassee region. Okay. So nothing has really changed. A lot of this stuff, that we talked about. The only thing is, I think Florida State dropped from the 3 overall national seed to the 4. So different spot, but same region. So we'll obviously talk about the softball game that's coming up this weekend. We'll probably preview that on Friday. And then, obviously preview the baseball series to end it, the Missouri series. Bummer that their midweek game got canceled. Some storms, but you could have used the win. But then again, if you lose, it's like a brutal loss.
That's hot, but
it
is what it is.
It is what it is. But all right, until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.